Hello, everybody. Andre D. Harrison here, and you are tuned in to Dad Talk Tuesday. This Tuesday, November 10th of 2015. First, I want to thank you for watching because there's a lot of craziness on TV that you could be watching right now. But instead, you chose to tune in live to Dad Talk Tuesday. And even if you're not tuning in live and you're watching on demand via YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Our hope is that you receive a lot of insight into being a better father, being a better parent, being a better family member, and a member of the community. Dad Talk Tuesday was started so that fathers can have a forum to talk about real issues that fathers face. And there's a lot of things that dads are unaware of, intimidated to talk about, scared to talk about, but we do. We talk about any and everything as it pertains to fatherhood and family. And today is no different. Today is no different. I have a couple of amazing guests on the show today to talk about why co-parenting is so dang hard. Why is it so difficult? Like in an ideal world, we would have our way. The other parent would do what we say, when we say it, how we say it, and we'll leave it at that. But it's not ideal. We don't live in a perfect world. So we are sometimes with the breakdown of relationships, we're thrust into a situation where we are, I don't want to say forced, but we find ourselves in a place where we have to co-parent. And when you're dealing with two different personalities, two different people with different sets of values, and they're trying to raise a child or children together, tension is definitely going to happen. Friction is definitely going to happen. And sometimes in relationships, things may not end amicably. And if that happens, bitterness enters the situation. And what we're trying to do is just have a candid conversation, a real conversation about why co-parenting is so difficult, why it's so challenging. Now, before we get on with the conversation, I want to introduce you to our panel, our guests, our experts. They are, I just want to say they're amazing, and I asked them, I don't just ask people to come on Dad Talk Tuesdays just to talk. I want to make sure that they are truly about what they talk about, and after doing research, I thought it was only fitting to invite these three onto the show. And because this is a Dad Talk Tuesday, generally we don't have women on the show. And it's not that we're misogynistic. It's not that we're male chauvinists. There are some issues that are exclusive to fathers that we try to address. And although we believe that women have amazing insight and can help, there are times where men just want to be around other men to talk about the issues and receive advice from men. So that's why we do the Dad Talk Tuesdays, and that's why most cases will have male guests on the show. But today is a little different because you can't talk about co-parenting without hearing from the other side. This isn't going to be a female bashing type of show. Where dads are like, she's keeping the kids away from me, man, and I pay all this child support and I can't see my kids. Today's show isn't about that. Today's show is about working together for the benefit of the child. So first I want to introduce Andrew Brown. I'm going to let him tell you who he is and what he's about and what he does.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Brown. I'm a social worker for a nonprofit agency here on Staten Island, and I deal with at-risk kids and families.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Andrew, for being on the show with us today, Dad Talk Tuesdays. I'm not sure if she's in the middle on your screen, but on my screen, she's in the middle. Miss Ayana, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ayana Holloway. I'm a blogger. My single momhood is my Twitter handle, singlemomhood.com. I just talk about my experiences, being a mom, becoming a single mom, and just the experiences that I've had over the years, and just share my knowledge and my understanding of womanhood and growing into parenting.
All right. And third on the panel, we have Miss Roxanne. Miss Roxanne, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roxanne Morrison, and I am a new blogger. I just started This Is Her Journey, so www.thisisherjourney.com. What it is an online community created for women, but I tell about my experiences as a mom and as a woman as a whole from a faith-based perspective. So I'm just happy to be here tonight to join the conversation.
And I am happy to have all you guys with us, as well. I want to thank you also for watching, if you're watching now. Now listen, if you have a question and you're watching right now on YouTube, live on YouTube, there's a little box, I think it's right here. I don't know if it's there, but I think it's right here, or maybe it's right here. You click that box, it'll lead you to another site where you can actually chat and comment your questions. You can ask it live on the show. You can chat with us as well in the group chat, and we'll try to make sure that we answer your questions. I am Andre D. Harrison. I am the founder, director of an organization called The Roll Call, which promotes fatherhood involvement and engagement. And we try to reconnect fathers with their children, and if we are unable to do that, we try to find mentors, male mentors, responsible male mentors that would sort of father fatherless kids. We also work with other agencies and organizations, schools, to run and promote fatherhood programs. And I am also an author of From a Fatherless Father to His Sons, which I heard was amazing. All right, don't take my word for it. I think you should buy it and find out for yourself. But I heard it was amazing. So this is my book, From a Fatherless Father to His Sons. That's me and my boys walking up the stairs book. And that's the title of the book. It's available to you on Amazon.com. Amazon.com for the low price of $10. And order the book. I heard it's a great book. I wrote the book because I grew up without my father, and I am in a situation now where I am the custodial parent of 3 boys. And I think God is funny, because here I am, a young man, well, a couple years ago, a young father, thrust into single fatherhood and forced to raise 3 boys, and I didn't have a father to teach me how to become a man, and now I'm in a situation where I'm trying to teach 3 boys to become men. It's challenging. So I wrote this book to sort of remind me of the lessons I learned growing up without my father, that I teach to my sons and young men that I mentor. So, and also I wrote it to single mothers who are forced to raise sons on their own. It helps them relate a little bit more to the struggles and the challenges that young men face growing up without their dads. And hopefully absentee fathers will read this book and would like to be joined together with their kids. All right, now on to the topic at hand. Co-parenting, and why is it so hard? I know. Before we get started, just by chance, Andrew, where's your family from?
I'm originally from New Jersey, so my family is from New Jersey.
Okay, so you're pretty much straight American.
Yes.
Family's like from American, and they've been American up until that the unfortunate transportation of the African people to America.
Yeah, I mean, I have some background, like my grandmother, she was German, so my grandmother didn't live here, forever. She came over after World War II.
Okay.
On my father's side, I have a little bit of Native American in me, so, okay. And but besides that, my rest of my history is,
Okay, I asked this because have you ever been in a conversation with Trini women? I'm just asking. Have you ever been in a conversation?
I could say I haven't. And this is my first time. So
my whole life, it's been. It's my whole life.
Okay.
Andre, that's not nice.
No, but hold on. I tell you what though, Trini women have the most amazing accents ever. They can yell at me all they want. I'm just gonna sit there.
I feel like you're trying to make up for what you just said.
Really make up.
No, but seriously though, I love the Trini accent. Actually, in 2014, no, just this year, Trinidadian accents was voted, I think, the second sexiest accent in the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What was number 1?
I think it was. What was number 1?
clearly they were off.
Yeah, they were way off. They were way off.
By
Way
one,
off.
right?
In 2014, I'm not sure if Macho's song had anything to do with this, but in 2014, Trinidadians were voted the happiest people in the world.
Absolutely. I
Nice.
think we are.
And I'll tell you why. Andrew, I'm not sure if you noticed about Trinis. They party for anything. We party for anything, you know?
Very
Anything.
true.
Anything, you know? It
Very
doesn't have to
true.
be anything big.
Everything has to be a lime. Everything
Yeah.
has to be a lime.
Yes, and they shut down the country. and
Real
Fit,
talk.
Lime party. Yeah, but yeah, man. So we're gonna have a great conversation. We may not agree on everything, but we do agree on whatever it is that we talk about is for the benefit of the child. And I do want to start off with this question. Now, it's a candid conversation, so we have some guided questions. I'll let the audience know that. But we're going to have a candid conversation, and we want you guys to chat in your comments, your questions, because we want you included in this conversation. You know. Now, the first question I wanted to ask is, and I'll start off with you, Roxanne, if you don't mind. Is one parent more important than the other? Why? Why not?
Honestly, if you would have asked me this question maybe a few a few weeks ago, or a few months, years even, the answer probably would have been different. A little bit of my background is that I just recently ended my family court experience, if you want to call it that, where I was basically having to fight for primary physical and legal custody of my daughter. So it was I kind of had to prove to the court which parent was more important. Like, was it me or my daughter's dad that deserved to have her on a full-time basis? It was never a situation that I wanted to be in or ever really thought that I would be in. And unfortunately for my daughter, she had to go to these court-mandated therapy sessions, and she had a lawyer representing her. And the questions that they were asking her was basically, well, do you want to be with mommy or do you want to be with daddy? And at the time when this first started, my daughter was probably turning 5.
Oh, wow.
Or 5, 6, 7. Obviously your answers are going to be, well, I want to be with mommy and daddy. You know, like, how do you make a child choose
Yeah.
between both parents? I know that I have a special role that I play in my daughter's life as mommy, but also dad has a role that I will never be able to fulfill because he's daddy. So I don't think there's an answer for that. I think both parents are equally as important because we come to the table with different things. There's stuff that I will be able to do that dad won't be able to do, and vice versa. And both of those things are needed to make my child a whole child.
Now, Andrew, what is your take on that? Because I know you work with families, and you probably find yourself in some situations where the custodial parent, whether it's mom and dad, feel like they're the most important parent in a child's life. Have you had any experience like that? And I know for confidentiality reasons you can't share too much, but yeah.
I mean, I see it on on an everyday basis where unfortunately, when the case comes in, from ACS, it's unfortunate that the female comes in the mother's name, it's, and the dad's either a respondent or a non-respondent, and then 9 times out of 10 you just have mom that's there, and the father, as I call him, is just a visiting father. He's not, preparing to have the son or daughter released to him. He's putting all the work on mom to do everything, to do the services, to do the programs, to do this and do that. And he's just visiting. And then you have, some fathers who do step up and, they either plan together or they plan separate, but that's the choices that they make, as the case goes along, to do their services and have the child, return to them. And it's difficult because for me, as I see different children, all different races, all different ethnicities, backgrounds, especially living here in New York, certain, parents play different roles, especially in the Spanish community, in the Haitian community, and compared to American community and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you'll see as you go up the ladder in age, that's when for a child it seems that the same sex role is important. For example, my teenage boys, they struggle a lot with anger and bitterness. And it's because they only have mom, they know of dad, but dad doesn't even come to see him. Dad doesn't speak to him about how to become a man. Dad doesn't speak to him. So at the end of the day, you have a mom who's doing to her best ability to raise this young boy into becoming a man. But at the end of the day, I'm going to piggyback off is that it is important to have a balance. You need mom and you need dad, because there's some things that mom can teach a son, and there's some things that, dad can teach a son to be a man. There's different aspects from that. I think also that one parent, it's almost, for me, it has to be a yin and a yang. There has to be a balance. You can't put one responsibility on one parent more than the other. Yeah. And a lot of discussions that I have with a lot of my clients, are because we'll have visitation at the agency, and they'll have an argument in front of the kids, and I'm saying, we need to hold down on that, because now they're seeing how you guys communicate. So when something happens into their life, rather be in school, rather be in the community, rather be wherever they are, they're going to respond the same way you're responding.
Yeah.
And they learn that, as watching you, So I think it's very important that it should be a balance. I think that mom and dad should be involved in the child's life as much as they can, because you have some parents that are incarcerated, some people, who are ill, some people, different circumstances for different parents that are out there. But I think it's definitely a balance, and also a bonus if you can have mom and dad, to be in a child's life in a positive way.
Yeah.
In a positive way.
Now, if you're a single mother and you're dealing with sons with, anger issues and they can't seem to, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, Amazon.com, from a fatherless father to a son. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. I'm sorry. Now, Ayana, let me ask you this: what could be some of the reasons that there is so much tension when it comes to co-parenting?
I think right out the gate, from my personal experience, when there's a breakup, there's upset, right? In a typical man-woman relationship, the relationship ends, you guys go your separate ways, you go in your corners, you cool off, maybe you try to get back together, not so much, whatever it may be. But when you are in a relationship and you have had a child with someone, there's no opportunity, or no opportunity is taken for people to go in their respective corners, right? Because there's mom and dad, right? I'm pretty sure, from my experience, of course, being a mom, baby stayed with mommy. Most of the people that I know who are single parents and in that situation, baby stays with mom. Mom is frustrated, going through her own emotional stuff. And then you still have to communicate with dad, right? Dad, a lot of times, does not want to deal with the emotional turmoil that's coming from mom. So there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of upset, and even prior to the breakup, there's a lot of tension and trying to figure it out and work it out, and there's all that, it's all that turmoil that goes on too, right? So we go from a place of friendship and love and all these things to energies building, and it becomes a bit negative and contentious. And now we break up, and now I still have to deal with you. I still have to see you. And so if there's no time taken away for closure, or just, to get through whatever the thing is, right? Whatever that may be, you're still dealing with that, that negative energy, and then you still have to, on top of that, communicate about your child. And so now it's dad says left, mom decides to go right. Mom says right, dad decides to go left. So it adds and it builds. And so, unfortunately, it builds up first, and then after a while that comes down bit by bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, first, and also let me say this. I'm letting my beard grow out because it's November. It's No Shave November. It took me a week and a half to get here. So if you guys are watching it and saying, "Wow, I can't believe Andre's on this looking like Wolfman Puck," it's because it's No Shave November, and I'm trying to create awareness for prostate cancer awareness among men.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
All right, good. So No Shave November.
Can't wait to see what you look like next week.
Oh God, I fear that. I think you're absolutely right with that too. And when there's a breakup, it could be for a number of reasons. I always say that there's always a bad guy. Always a bad guy. In every breakup, there's a bad guy. It seems like even if you get to the place where it's like I know I'm not compatible with them. They're not compatible with me. I think I need to end this for the benefit of both of us, even though there's a child. The person who does the breakup is the bad guy. And then there's bitterness involved. Right. And if there's a child involved, both parents have the feeling that this baby is mine, which is, I think, could be a positive thing because they have a sense of ownership to the baby. But they have to understand that the baby is no longer exclusively yours. The baby is not exclusively mom's or exclusively dad's. It's the baby is it took two to make the baby. It would take two to raise the baby. So the baby needs to be shared. And I think with that bitterness, sometimes the parents would use the child against the other one, causing even greater bitterness and prolonging the healing process where parents can come together and finally get to the point where they're co-parenting peacefully. A couple of years ago, last year, I did a workshop called Recipe for Peaceful Co-Parenting. And I got up and everybody was on the edge of their seats, ready to hear what I had to say about the recipe and because they really wanted to co-parent peacefully. And I had like a recipe book, right? Like that, it was a fake. And I read there. I tore it up. I said, there's no such thing. There really is no such thing. There's so many variables involved with, because there's no cookie cutter way to get to the place where two adults, mom and a dad, could find a path to peaceful co-parenting. They got to get there on their own, and eventually I believe they can get there. But there's no cookie cutter way, no true recipe to get there, especially when you're dealing with people that have feelings, emotions. Could be bitterness involved. It's tough. It's tough. Roxanne, what's your take on that?
I think you're right. There is no one size fits all.
And bro, do you hear the accents? I'm just saying.
I hear them.
There's no one size fits all when it comes to co-parenting. It's very case specific, and I think it just requires you knowing what your situation is, knowing what your history is, knowing what the best approach is to deal with this person, and really using that wisdom, using that insight that you have about that person to your advantage. So you know if certain things are going to tick this person off, or you know what their short fuses are, or you know how to get to them, good or bad. Because you could use this, you could really use that information either way. But it's about knowing who you have to co-parent with and making wise decision based on that. So if I know my child's father is self-conscious about certain things because he's not around Monday through Friday, then I have to make a conscious decision to make him more confident or make him more comfortable in his position as her dad, even though he's not around Monday through Friday. But again, this really takes time. It takes a lot of patience. It takes sometimes denying your feelings and pushing your feelings to the side and saying, okay, I'm not going to act how I feel. Sometimes it really requires doing the complete opposite of how you feel. You might be mad, you might be frustrated, you might still be hurt, but you have to make the choice not to act out of your anger, not to act out of your hurt, not to act out of whatever history you've shared with this person. It really, for me, it's a day-by-day process. So every day I wake up, it's like, okay, we're starting all over. You know, like it doesn't matter how successful yesterday was, because really anything could come up and just throw off the balance that we had yesterday.
Very true.
You know, so it's a day by day process.
I'd also like to add to that too, in terms of trust. Takes a lot of trust in yourself and your abilities, but also trusting this person who you clearly have had a trust issue with, or else, right, the relationship wouldn't be over.
Right.
And so, really trusting that they are doing the best that they can as well, even if it's not according to your standards. I know I've had that experience with my daughter's father, where I wasn't trusting, and I wanted to control, and you know what I mean, and baby's with him, but I'm back here having this conversation in the back of my mind because I was having, that trust issue, and that trust issue came up before the breakup, and and really having to learn to really let go. Like really letting it go and just trusting that whatever it is, that whatever relationship she gets to have with her dad, it's going to be a good relationship and they're going to be fine. Yeah, so I definitely feel you on that one.
Yeah, trust is definitely a big, huge part of it, especially I guess from a woman's perspective. We always feel like nobody's gonna take care of baby like mommy.
Right.
So when your child is not there, when you can't physically reach out and see that baby is okay, it could drive you crazy if you really sit there and think of all the different possible scenarios of what could be happening. And when you throw in a case where it's like, oh, maybe there's another woman around, that just takes it to a whole other level. Yeah, I could write a chapter in a book just about that alone.
we can talk about that all day.
Escalates it. Yes. For me, again, because my faith in God is really what helps me on a day-to-day basis. I have to begin to pray that God, even when I'm not around my child, I know that you're there with her. And I mean, this is even when she's at school, or, like when I'm at work and she's at school, I'm not there. So it's kind of like the same thing being played out. So my prayer just became, God, I'm not there, but you're always there. So just watch over my baby. And that really just gave me so much peace. And what you're saying, letting go of control, letting go of fear, letting go of disappointment, letting go of so many different emotions that could play out if you really allow your mind to just go and,
absolutely
live out these different scenarios.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Good stuff. Very good. I wanted to ask real briefly, Andrew, but if two parents can't just get along and they just at a place where neither one of them just want to be at peace, and there's going to be continual tension, what can happen at that point?
I mean, at that point, then that's when, unfortunately, if the co-parenting without the legal system, doesn't work, that's when you'll get the legal system involved. For visitations, for child support, for alimony for some people, depending on where your relationship was at that time. For me, for co-parenting, I think a lot of us, as it was stated, was about feelings and letting go. I think that it's very hard for some parents, or most of the parents, I should say, is that they always have a connection with the significant other, rather it be male or female, because they have a child together. And then depending on how recent the breakup was, those feelings are always still there. And for me, I always look at people when they talk. People usually talk from how they feel. And you can read what the conversation, what's coming out of their lips. Oh, well, Mrs. Jones, she's such and such, you know what I mean? Or vice versa, Mr. Jones is X, Y, and Z, and you can always see that they're not there yet, And I believe I'm going to say for us, for men, there's some spots in our lives, because a lot of men, don't do it. We're broken in some places, and we don't go visit those places and fix those places to move on to where we got to go. And it's also like a sacrifice, because now you're putting your feelings aside for your child to raise your child the right way. Like I see it a lot of time is a parent will use the child to send messages back and forth. well, tell mommy I said X, Y, and Z. When the child shouldn't be involved at all. You should pick up the phone, or you should text mommy or email mommy. There's so many ways today we can communicate without actually coming to physical contact with a person. You know, there's no way, you know, why we have to put the child in the middle of that, because then, you know, kids' brains absorb a lot of the things that are said to them, you know, and they think about the things that are said to them. And if they can't process it, they keep that in their head, you know, and then it winds up coming out either in school or in therapy, or, you know, they ask another child, you know. And I just think that it's hard to get past because there's feelings involved. And until you get past that feeling part, where you still have the emotions tied to that significant other, whether it be a male or a female, you know, it's hard to say, oh, this is the best interest of our child, you know, because like you said before, it's you know, it's sometimes parents do, you know, the wrong thing. They say, oh, no, that's my child, but they're not saying it's my child out of love. They're saying it's my child out of ownership.
Yeah.
And it's like a win-lose battle, and that's the wrong way to do it. You know, if you're going to say that's my child out of love and I want to do what's best for my child at that point in time, then that's the right way to go about it. But if you're going to sit back and say, oh, that's my child, like you would say, oh, that's my shoes or that's my coat, then, you know, they need to take a step back and look at that. Like, I'm not approaching the situation, you know, as best as I can, you know, as an adult, you know, and sometimes we have to refocus, you know.
So as an adult, mine, get away, mine.
Pretty much, right?
You know, so you know, it's definitely, like I said, I get to see it, you know, played out a lot, you know, in my field of work, but also at one point in time, you know, I was in that place, you know, where I wasn't with my child's mother, and, you know, we weren't sure if we were going to get back together. We didn't know what was going on, but, you know, there was a lot of times that, you know, and it took another man to tell me that, you know, it took another man to say, listen, you're not with her now, but that doesn't mean you're going to not be with her later. Don't, you know, hurt her or say anything that'll make her not want to, you know, get back with you, you know, if that you ever come to that point in time. You know, you have a child, you know, you need to take care of that child to the best of your both ability. And you guys need to basically, like we're having now, he's like, you guys need to communicate and have conversation. He was like, because eventually, you know, at one point you guys were having conversation and you guys were being, you know, nice to each other and, you know, loving each other and caring for each other. That's why the child's here. So there's no way, no rhyme or reason why you can't do that now. Yeah. And, right. But the same thing, you know, for me, it took me to go back and revisit where I was at, you know, my own faith, you know, with God, and, you know, getting my relationship right with God before I could even decide which way I wanted to go. Yeah. And that's why I always go back to that saying. There was a lot of things in my life that I was broken. That's why I couldn't accept the failure of the relationship, you know, because I was broken, you know what I mean, myself. But until I had to fix those things and get right with myself and get right with God, then other opportunities and other, you know, windows and, you know, the picture came clear. You know, it wasn't just me looking at a dot on the wall. You know, I was walking further and further back so I can see the whole picture, you know, and I'm thankful for that, you know, because some of us don't get to see the whole picture. We still looking at that dot that's right there on the wall.
Amen. I want to give a special shout out to my sister Elena, who's watching. Hi. All right. Now, how does society play a role in what we perceive or how we co-parent? Like, what do you think? And I'll ask you, Ayana, what do you think society teaches us about co-parenting and how we do it?
I don't think it does teach us how to co-parent, quite honestly. Okay. I was fortunate. I am fortunate enough to have a support system in place that when I could not speak to Dad, Grandma was the go-between, right? So baby needs to be picked up because Daddy needs time with baby, but Mommy and Daddy can't even stand the sight of each other.
All right.
Grandma stepped in. Great-grandma stepped in. So, and I also grew up, my parents divorcing. My daughter's 9, so I was younger, but, you know, having that experience. And I had a great experience, although my parents weren't together, growing up, you know, with my dad and having access to him because my grandparents made sure I had access to him. So in terms of my nucleus, my community, my support system, I will say, you know, it was encouraged that I had a relationship with my dad, and therefore it has been encouraged and instilled in me that my daughter needs to have a good relationship with her dad, regardless to my feelings. Outside of that, though, when you're experiencing things and you're going to your circle, or you're going to friends and family, and you have been violated, because that's how you're expressing your feelings, right?
That's right.
You're expressing your feelings from a violation.
Mm-hmm.
So they are going to say, nah, you better do blah, 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 blah. So there's this external motivation that happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because there's, you're vetting your team,
Mm-hmm.
you're vetting your crew, you're getting feedback. And sometimes that feedback is not based on the situation at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that feedback is based on their personal feelings about the person,
Mm-hmm.
maybe about you, maybe their own experience not having dad or mom around.
Yeah.
Right.
So you get feedback, and it's all with good intention, but sometimes that's not the best way to receive the support. It's not always the best support. And I've had that experience as well. So as much as I was raised having access to my dad, regardless to what, my mother never spoke ill of my dad in front of me or anything like that. In the same respect, I also had this crew, this team that was hitting me hard with things that I didn't think I wanted to do, because in my spirit, in my heart, it just didn't sit well. So I ended up in conflict within myself. And then that conflict carried on into the relationship with my daughter's father, trying to have a conversation, because and control the outcome based on what I think it needed to be, right? So I do think it's twofold. I think when it comes to your support system and your family, you also have to be, you have to be careful, because your support system is friends, and your friends you consider to be family as well. So you have to be very careful of the information that you're taking in, because you're also going through your ups and downs, highs and lows with this individual.
Right.
So going back to your faith, your spirit, your energy, going back to God, praying, I do believe that helped me. And being introspective and really looking at me and my issues. What exactly is it that's in me that's creating this upset? Because when I got to a point where, there was a point where my dad was absent, and I wanted to protect my daughter from having the same experience with her dad, because I had a child with a man very much like my father. So all of that came.
Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah. So when you have all of those elements, and it's a lot, because you're still in your head about the breakup. You're still in your head about, because you guys are still treating the dynamic of the relationship as if you were in the relationship still. And a lot of people don't think about that. And once I was aware of that, I'm like, wow, I still treat him like we're still together. And because he's not doing what I want, there's even more upset. So, once again, there's so many layers involved in the situation. Sometimes it's best for you to take a step back, a step out, leave everyone where they're at, and really, really clear your mind and your spirit and your energy to really have clarity on the best way to go about handling the situation.
Roxanne, let me ask you this. How can poor co-parenting habits affect children? And after you answer, I would like to have Andrew answer that question also.
Well, just speaking from my personal experience, my daughter was very young when we had to go through our family court experience. And I could see, obviously, I couldn't be in the room with her when she was meeting with her attorney. So I would never really know what those conversations were fully about, which I don't necessarily agree with. Because if you don't know what your child is facing with, you can't necessarily triage the way that you will have to. And I didn't want to pry and, ask questions when she came out those sessions, like, oh, well, what did they ask you? What were you talking about? Legally I wasn't supposed to, and then also I felt I didn't want to make it more of a traumatic experience for her. But I could notice, she was obviously affected by having to go through those sessions. She didn't really understand why we had to travel, because we had to go to a different county based on where we were living at that time. She didn't really understand why we had to take so many trips back to that county, to meet with all these different people. I think emotionally she was starting to become affected by it, but because our case ended when it did, it didn't have as much impact as it could. But what really got me at times is when she would make comments like, "Oh, well, mommy and daddy don't talk. Why is that?" Or one time she asked me, "Are mommy and daddy friends?" And I'm like, I was, it's amazing how God would use your children sometimes to just send a message to you because he knows that it will grab your attention. So to hear a 5 or 6-year-old ask a simple question as, "Are mommy and daddy friends?" And to know in my heart that I really couldn't answer it like, "Yeah, baby, mommy and daddy are friends," and to be, to feel like that was an honest representation of the relationships, it will check me at times that, you know what, she may not always vocalize it, but she's smart. She knows the dynamics of the relationship. She knows when things are good. She knows when mommy and daddy might be bickering or when there might be some kind of fighting going on. So we as parents, we may think that we're shielding our kids from it, but we don't do as good of a job as we think we are. They pick up on clues. They pick up on body language. They notice stuff. They're very observant. So even if we're not vocalizing to them that mommy can't stand daddy right now, she knows. So I think it definitely has an impact on them emotionally. There's that, it's almost like a battle that takes place in their mind of who their loyalty should lie to. Like, should I be loyal to mommy or should I be loyal to daddy?
Wow.
And
That's, imagine the stress that a child will go through thinking
through life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of the hardest positions to watch your child be in. And I think that's what should motivate us as parents to make that not be a battle for our child. We don't want that. I mean, there's so much that they face on a day-to-day basis. They shouldn't have to come home at night and worry about, well, if I talk to daddy, is mommy going to be upset? Or if I spend time with mommy, or say I want to be with mommy, is daddy going to feel like I don't love him? That's unfair of us as adults to put that type of burden on our kids. So we may not admit it or we may not recognize it, but we definitely have the ability, because now we're shaping them as people. We're shaping them as future parents. We're shaping them as just future citizens based on how we handle stress? How do we handle conflict? Like, we're teaching them all of this stuff already.
Right.
Yeah. Andrew, do you mind?
I think.
No. I think it's.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, as to piggyback off what she just said, is that, your children are watching you. They can read you sometimes better than you read yourself. When you get out of bed, they say, "Mommy, what's wrong?" or "Daddy, what's wrong?" Or they'll look at you and they'll pick up on it. For me, it's I think there's a lot of layers to it. And to me, things can change because I've witnessed one family when I worked at another agency where the parents were separated, both of them were remarried, and both of them had their stepkids. And to see the family interact at a visit was amazing. It blew my mind. Mom was talking to the stepmother, father was talking to, the stepfather, but just how they all were interacting. All the kids were interacting with each other. But that goes to show me, too, that it can happen.
Yes.
We can put things aside and we can develop as one unit to function as as the betterness of the child. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and sometimes, like you said, it becomes where a child was like, "Well, I told mommy this, I don't feel comfortable telling daddy," And I think for me personally, it's just the conversation you should have with your child. Well, you told me this, I'm still gonna have to let mommy know, or vice versa. I'm still gonna have to let daddy know. And I see that a lot is that the co-parenting sometimes does get confusing for the child. They're like, well, I know I can do this at mommy's, but I can't do this at daddy's because there's no balance of of talking to each other, communicating what can go on and what can't go on. What time do they go to bed, or what can I eat or what I cannot eat, stuff like that. And then when the child's returned back to, say, for example, the father had the child for the weekend, return to the mother, and you have a conversation with the child. What do you mean your dad let you do this? Or what do you mean, this is happening? But there's never a breakdown. And like I said, the communication doesn't have to be, face to face. It could be a note that's written or whatever. This is what I told, Sam. Sam's not allowed to do this because this happened in school. Because the communication barrier breakdown, sometimes sometimes a parent won't know that the child, something happened in school and they're not supposed to go to the park or whatever. But then it turns around to being an issue with the father because the father let the child go, but at the end of the day, the father never knew that the child wasn't supposed to go. So I think it's a lot of things that go on in co-parenting. I think that it's a stigmatism sometimes, especially from depending on what community you come from. It's normal in one community, but it's not normal in another community. Like, for example, if it's co-parenting, for the African American community, I think it's looked at different than if it's co-parenting for a Caucasian community. It's like, well, I'm speaking from with my work. Oh, yours, for example, my African American. Oh, she's just a single mother. Like, they already assume dad's not in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? And
Right.
then for like the Caucasian side, it's just like, oh, well, dad and mom, they're not together, but dad's still there. And sometimes it's not that way. Dad is not there.
Right.
So I think society looks at it different. But as the generations change and the gaps grow closer together, because you've seen a lot more communities mixing together. I think things can get better.
Well, that leads me to ask this. I know we have a few minutes left. You talked about the family that just had it. They seem to get it. How can we get to the place where we go from negative feelings to positive co-parenting? And if you don't mind, Ayana, I would like to start with you.
Oh, absolutely. I've been blessed to have a similar scenario. So for me, with my daughter, the conversation has been, you get to have the best of both worlds. Because not only do you have mommy and daddy, you have additional family. So you get two grandmas, two grandpas, whatever it is, right? You have an abundance of love that is surrounding you. The person that Naya's father is with has been in her life for about 5 years and is an amazing human being. When we met, I spoke. I said, I just need to know what you look like. You just need to meet.
And your social security number.
I'm a mom, and I protect my cub, right? But in the same respect, I get to respect the fact that her father's in a relationship. And my only conversation was, this is my only baby. She's had 2 other children who are older, so she understood being a single mom herself. And so she was not interested in my drama with him. She never gets involved. If she's concerned for my child, we speak. So I've had the opportunity to be able to be comfortable and not only also be expressive about how I feel, but be comfortable with the person that he's with, because we can have a relationship, which was important to me. Not because I needed to be in their business, but because you're around my daughter every other weekend, most summers, And so I've been very fortunate in having that experience. I've dated, I've been in relationships, I'm in a relationship now. And it was very important for me that the person that I'm with to have a good relationship with my daughter's father as well. So, that experience really has supported us, even more over what Andrew was talking about with you know, what happens at daddy's house versus mommy's house, and I heard this and I heard that, and of course we've all been there, I'm pretty sure. One of the things that um, we learned was what happens at mommy's house stays at mommy's house, and it's really none of your business what happens in daddy's house, because that's mommy time and that's daddy's time. And yes, we have to communicate. If she gets in trouble in school, he needs to know. If we have to make a decision about something that's, you know, whatever it may be, whether it's discipline, financial, whatever it is, we have to have that conversation, even if I don't want to speak to him that day. And so we found a way, even in being upset with each other, there's text messages, you know, yeah, there are phone calls. Sometimes it may take, you know, a third party passing on the message. But regardless to what, we get to have like the best case scenario and the best case situation to work out for our child. Because ultimately, she needs to be a well-rounded human being. Growing up in this world, when I close my eyes, she will never be able to say mommy and daddy did not try their hardest.
Yeah.
And so I get to surround her with love. I get to surround her with some dynamic people, and her father gets to do the same. And seeing the result of it when she comes home after having an amazing weekend, you know, she went to daddy's house and she went to a barbecue and then she went to the movies and she got her nails done, and, you know, and she comes home and it's like, okay, daddy detox, because now you have to get serious, right? So, you know, we have a day or so.
You don't ever get jealous? Like, she had an amazing time with dad and she comes home and it's like, well,
Well, I'll say this. I have no shame in my game claiming Mommy of the Year.
Okay, all right.
I get that her dad and I play different roles in her life. So there's things I just honestly would not even want to do. But that's the stuff he loves to do with her. So she gets to have that fun. She gets to enjoy herself. You know what I mean? Like, she deserves it. She's a child.
Yeah.
And so, you know, even when things aren't the best between him and I, and knock on wood, because we've been fortunate to like knock a lot of those issues out the park. But even in moments where there still might be some tension because of something that came up, you know, we don't focus on what did you do at daddy's house? What did you do at mommy's house? Who said what to you? Why did you go there? Oh my God. It is what it is, right? And so she gets to not have that pressure on her.
That's good. That's good. It's like you put up signs in your homes, right? Like it's an industrial workplace. 226 days since the last incident. We've been good for the past 226 days. So that's a celebration. Woo!
Yeah. No, we've been fortunate. You know, we went from having these strict, you know, every other weekend, you know, X amount of days at your house for Christmas, my house for the summer. In the last year and a half, I have to say, none of that even matters. Because we took certain things off the table. And once we started taking those things like finances, we took it off the table. It wasn't working before. We decided to go to court. We met with a mediator. We didn't even go in front of a judge. We took that off the table. And the minute that happened, it just seemed like everything just started to feel lighter and lighter.
So once the money situation was taken care of, like,
right, because let's be real, right?
You know, that's a huge part of the tension.
It is.
Very big.
Right.
You mentioned that. Not one. This is the first time it came up in the conversation.
But it's probably the reason why the breakup happened, let's be honest, right? So,
Homeboys
I'm
broke.
just saying. But I'm just saying, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's more stuff, but people throw things in there just to, you know, I mean, they might as well throw in the kitchen sink too, right? So we were very clear on, our relationship prior to even being in a relationship. We were really, really good friends. So we wanted to get back to that. Because, and I'll tell anybody, when he is with her, he is amazing with her, right? And I get to have my friendship with him. I get to go back to that because ultimately that's how we started out. we were friends.
Mhm.
So we always get to make that like top priority because that's what she sees, and
Mhm.
she gets to experience us in our friendship.
That's good. That's good. Um, Roxanne, I
Hmm.
wanted you to chime in on that also a little bit.
Well, my situation isn't as nice and peachy as Ayana.
My bad. Oh, it was probably, trust and believe it. It took some time. This is like 7 years in the making.
But
Yeah.
so we just finished our court experience last year, so this is very, very fresh, very new. And I guess it was kind of unique in that he was the one that initiated the court process,
Mm.
which you don't really see a lot of times where
Mm-mm.
dads are filing for petition uh, for custody for their kids.
Right.
So dealing with all of that emotionally, now we have a very structured agreement. Like there's no room for anything really. I mean, any clause possible, it's in our agreement for the next 10 years until she hits 18,
Mm.
and even beyond. And, finances, that was a big part of it as well. It's funny. No, I'm not going to put that out there, but finances was finances was a very big tension point, because, and again, this speaks to mentality and it speaks to what's socially acceptable. No shade, but sometimes dads, they want to have custody of their kids. They want to see their kids, but when it comes to having a financial structure in place, it's like taboo. Like, you're not supposed to take your kids' dads to court for money in the African American community. That's like a big violation.
What you mean I gave you money? I gave you money last month.
Well, she gotta eat every month. That's a whole different conversation.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
But even with these structures in place, even with all the stipulations that we have on paper, it again boils down to trust and communication. Because I don't want to go to court every other day, every other month when he violates a stipulation. So the more we trust each other that, this is what we have to play by. But I'm trusting that even when I'm not around to see you play the game, that you're playing by the rules. You know what I mean? And communication is such a huge part of that. If we're getting along, if mommy and daddy is cool, then chances are daddy's gonna stick to the rules that we're supposed to play by. Whereas if we're not really getting along, then he might be prone, or even me sometimes, I might be tempted to say, oh, forget that, because I got so, like I'm the primary person, so I could basically make the rules and he just got to go along with it. Yeah. But for me, it's like I can't abuse that power. Even though I have it, it's not going to be in the best interest of my child. It's not going to be in the best interest of our situation for me to just wield that power over him, because he's not going to be happy with me just exerting that power whenever I feel like it, just because I can legally. So it really, for me, I had to get whole, me as a person. I had to fix my brokenness. I had to get over all the pain, the hurt, the resentment, and it's a day-to-day process, because sometimes stuff just flashes back, like, oh, remember when he did this, or remember when he did that. But I still have to parent with him, so it's like trying to figure out how to heal, but yet be functional at the same time. I think that's such a big part of the conversation, and that's
to break down to build back up.
Yes, definitely. So how I'm approaching the situation now is just trying to get back to that place where, so the lawyers are gone, the court is gone, damage is already done. We can't undo testimony. We can't undo everything that was done during that 3-year period. But now, how do we pick back up now and just get to a place where it's just mutual respect? You respect me as a mother, I respect you as a dad. How do we get to that place? And for me, it's just little everyday things that I could do. And this was Andre's challenge where he asks single moms just to reach out and say something you appreciate about them. I wasn't really feeling it at first.
Oh, I saw your comments now.
Yes.
Did you read
I was like, shocking.
I was waiting for it.
I went online to respond and like, oh my God, this is amazing because I have this great relationship with my daughter's father.
Yeah.
And then like I got distracted at work and like 5 minutes later, the ladies went
They were going
in.
you know what? I was like, yeah, girl, you better tell him. I was like, yes.
I thought they were going to beat Andre's behind.
Yo, I was death threats.
But you know what? I understood all of those comments because I was there before. I was the emotions. It was almost like if I was living through the stuff that these women were saying. And I know you touched on it a little bit earlier when you're like you could listen to what somebody's saying and see where they're coming from. Like you see the visual clues of where that person is speaking from. You know, like the scripture that says, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak." So if my heart is filled with hate, you're gonna see that play out in my sentence. I'm trashing my daughter's dad. You're gonna know, okay, she's really not. Like there's something deeper there. There's more there. So the challenge for me is getting rid of all of that stuff. Putting all of the hurt aside. Like I can't undo what he's done. I can't undo what has been said or what hasn't been said or what hasn't been done. But I can make the choice every day just to move forward that I'm not going to live or parent from a place of hurt. I'm not going to parent from a place of disappointment. You know, like our family is not going to be the traditional family ever. That chapter has died, buried. Ain't no resurrection. Like it's done. But now is okay. How do we make it the best for my daughter? And this is kind of why I started thisisherjourney.com, because when I was going through my situation, I felt like there wasn't a voice. Like I couldn't go online and read something of how do you handle the pain? How do you handle the emotional distress? How do you handle the depression that comes on and still parent? Like there was no voice there. So that's why I started my blog, This Is Her Journey, just so that women could know that they're not the only ones going through it. Like it's so refreshing to hear different perspectives. You know, people are going through different situations, but there's, you know, like there are things that we could grab from one another's story that would help us to know, like sometimes you just need to know you're not the only one that's going through. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, it's really, it absolutely is a day-by-day process. Like every day waking up and saying, I'm going to let go of the past. I'm not going to allow my emotions to override common sense and override what's in the best interest of my daughter. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, she's really all that matters.
On that note, have a nice night. But I think you nailed it there. I know we are 3 minutes over. Could you believe we had been talking for an hour now?
No, it doesn't seem like it.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's now 10:03. We're a little bit over. But so I want to make sure I close. But we can definitely talk about this another time.
Absolutely.
I do want to just share with all the listeners. I know one of the hardest things to get past and move past is how the other partner or the other person involved in the co-parenting situation made you feel at one point in your life. You may feel hurt, you may feel embarrassed, or just you may even have an immense amount of hate and bitterness toward the other party. But for the benefit of your child, hear me out. For the benefit of your child, right? You gotta remove that from the parenting situation. Even if you never talk to the other party again, don't allow your child to play a part in that also. My mother, I didn't grow up with my father. Never knew my father. But my mother never once said a negative thing about my dad. Not once. I didn't know him. I met him for the first time when I turned 30. So
Wow.
never once did she say anything negative about my father. Never once. I mean, I think back, I look back, and I don't ever, even when I asked, she never said anything bad about my father. And she may have had reasons to, but she never came to us with that. And I think that that's something that we have to try to adapt. Remove ourselves. You said, Roxanne, to remove ourselves from the situation, remove our feelings from the situation. Our children is the one thing that we have to be concerned about. So if the relationship is truly over, if you really feel that there's no going back, then why revisit those feelings over and over again whenever you see them when it comes to your child? You know, it shouldn't happen that way anymore, especially if you say you're over. Let that chapter close and allow a new chapter to start in that book, right? Where your child is now the protagonist, you know, where they're the main focal point of the story, and it's no longer about the relationship, but it's about the child. You know, so get to the place where you guys can communicate. And I think Andrew, you said it before, and so did you, Ayana. You talked about a point where you use third parties or you use other means of communication. One of the things, even in my situation, one of the things I had to start doing was leaving a paper trail. So I was communicating solely through email and text messaging and saving those things just in case.
Been there, yes.
Just in case. But those are other means of communication. So that you can always go back and say, listen, I tried to reach out. I'm not your enemy. I'm not your enemy. And again, you guys aren't enemies. You and the other child, other parent, you guys can't look at each other as enemies. Because if you guys look at each other as enemies, again, we had the conversation earlier, your child doesn't know who to be loyal to. Right? And that's a lot of pressure and a lot of burden on your babies. So remember, do your best to co-parent, remove your emotion from the situation. And unless the child is in grave physical, emotional danger, you guys are obligated to the child for her or his best interest to work together as a team to parent your child as successfully as you can. All right. Any closing remarks before we go? And with the closing remarks, if you guys have contact information, websites, you can share it now. But we'll start off with you, Andrew.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for having me. It was a great experience, great opportunity. Hopefully, I can do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
You know, it's always you know, not the ideal picture. You know, when parents, you know, have that, you know, that living together in the white picket fence marriage is happily, you know, these are things that happen in today. But I think like it always goes back to what I always doing my daily work is like it goes back to, is it the best interest of the child? You know, is this going to hurt the child? Is this going to build the child up, or is it going to break the child down? You know, and I have a lot of conversations throughout the week, but the main thing, you know, is the focus is on the child. And sometimes it takes longer for some people to get to where they have to go, you know, to be able to put the things aside. But, you know, whether it's ill will, whether it be financial, you know, hurt, pain. But at the end of the day, I think the child will benefit the most if, you know, they observe and see that the co-parents, you know, co-parenting is working, you know. And that's awesome that your mom, you know, never said nothing negative, you know, about your father. And the first time that, you know, you met him when he was 30, because, you know, 9 times out of 10, as soon as something happens, you know, it's like, well, your dad is not, you know, your dad.
And I was able to formulate my own opinion
about your father, right? So, you know, and that's awesome, you know. You know, co-parenting is just another journey of life, and you know, I wish everybody the best of luck with their journey. I will be following you guys since I have your websites, you know, and I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
Ayana?
Yeah, so also thank you for having me. This was amazing. I'm pretty sure I'll see you at Lynn's barbecue soon.
Absolutely.
Or whatever.
I wonder, is she watching, Lynn? Are you watching? Hit me up. Text me if you.
I didn't speak to her, so I don't know. Yeah, but just piggybacking on both of what you, Andrew, had said, you know, yeah, it really boils down to the happiness of your child, right? We want them to be the best them they can be, no matter what. You know, and so it is best to, and you can, it's okay for you to have your feelings. It's okay for you to even be in your upset if you need to be, right? But after a while, like, I mean, enough is enough, right? So I think while you're working through your stuff, and that can be challenging, you really want to make sure that, okay, how is this working for, I don't know, Sarah or whoever, right?
Right.
And really like take a look at that and make sure that that always ends up being your top priority in the situation. How is this going to work best for my child? Not based on your opinion, but best for your child. So yeah, so as I said before, my website is www.singlemomhood.com. I will be posting something new and refreshing rather soon regarding generational curses, so that's going to be very interesting. So Andre, hit me up. We'll be having another one of these conversations because it actually can tie back into parenting.
Parenting, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Roxanne.
Just to kind of summarize what everyone is saying, I think it's very important to work on your healing, being emotionally whole, whether you're male or female. A lot of times we'll say you got to put your feelings to the side. I don't necessarily agree with that, because if you bury them, doesn't mean that they go away. They just sit there and fester even longer and makes it even harder to co-parent. So it's very important to be real with yourself about how hurt you are. Be real about your disappointment. Be real about your embarrassment, whatever it is, and work through those feelings so that you could parent from a place of being emotionally whole. Everything that we're saying, everything that we're doing, our kids are looking and they're learning. So not only are our characters being tested, but we have the ability to shape our kids' character at such a young age with the challenges that we face as single parents. So I wrote my story. You'll see a little bit of details about the Facebook challenge that Andre put up, and then the follow-up of what happened when I actually did the Facebook challenge. I posted that story today, so it's on the blog.
Ooh, nice.
www.thisisherjourney.com. On the site, I cover 4 areas: faith, inspiration, where you'll see stories from different women's different backgrounds, so entrepreneurs, ministers, single mothers, married women. You'll see stories that you could relate to know that you're not alone, because I think that's so important, just to feel like you have a community of support. And then I also touch on love and relationships. My Twitter handle, I'm new to this, so it's @this_her journey. I'm on Facebook, This Is Her Journey. Instagram, This Is Her Journey. Pinterest. We're out there. Just come and check us out and see the stories and follow and join the journey. And thank you so much, Andre, and everyone, for just sharing your stories, because it's definitely it's good to hear that I'm not alone in this.
Not at all.
True.
No problem.
And I do want to thank my church, Calvary Chapel, for allowing me to use the space. And Pastor Dave Watson, thank you very much. I'm not selling these, but this is my. I'm trying to brand as much as I can. This is my organization, the Roll Call. TheRolecall.org. We're all about eradicating fatherlessness. That's the hashtag. You can find more information about my book on Amazon.com, From a Fatherless Father to a Son. And actually, it's a picture of me trying to look cool with shades on. My kids right there, and a picture of my father. It's my biological father right there.
Nice.
We first met. You can find me on Twitter at Andre D. Harrison. You can see that actually in the lower third. On Facebook.com / The Roll Call. Yeah, Facebook.com / The Roll Call or / Instagram Andre_D_Harrison. Please, you can find all of that on our website. We also have, which we're trying to improve, a YouTube channel that produces videos encouraging fathers, and that you can go to youtube.com / Answering the Roll Call. All one word, and that's roll with an E. All right? We're going to let you guys go. I know it's late. It's 10:14. Some of you have work in the morning. If you do, I'm sorry. I work at a school, and at my school, we're off tomorrow.
Same here.
Oh, that's not nice, Andre.
I'm sorry.
You set me up.
But I do have an amazing opportunity to do a professional development for a pregnancy care center.
Oh, nice.
So I look forward to that. But again, thank you guys so much. We will be back 2 weeks from now for the fourth Tuesday of the month. That will be on the 24th of November. That's a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Please tune back to our page, our YouTube page, to find out more information on the topic and who's going to be joining us. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this, share this YouTube video and hashtag I Play My Role and hashtag Dad Talk Tuesdays. All right?
Okay.
Have a good night. God bless you.
Good night,
Go to
everybody.
sleep. Have a
Yep.
good night.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.